All right, so you're ready to conquer the top of Europe.
Sounds exciting.
Well, get ready, because today we're diving deep into Jungfraujoch, and trust me, this is not your average mountaintop.
I'm intrigued. What makes it so special?
We're talking glaciers, ice palaces, a railway that seems to defy gravity.
Wow.
All from the intel we've got piled up right here, ready to unpack.
Yeah.
Get ready for some serious wanderlust, because this place is legendary.
All right, you've got my attention. So what is it that makes Jungfraujoch so fascinating? Does it really live up to its nickname?
Oh, it definitely does.
Tell me more.
Picture this. You're perched high in the Swiss Alps
Okay.
at a dizzying altitude of 3,454 meters above sea level.
That's over 11,000 feet.
You got it.
Wow.
That's what makes this place so unique.
So it's the altitude.
That's a huge part of it. But it's also the blend of those natural wonders like the glaciers we talked about and the man-made attractions all in one spot. People come back year after year, and it's not hard to see why.
So how do you even get to this top of Europe?
That's part of the adventure. Forget cars. We're talking about a train ride like no other.
A train. Up a mountain.
You heard that right. The Jungfraubahn.
The what?
The Jungfraubahn. It's the highest railway station in the world.
No way.
It's true. Imagine this. You're winding through the heart of the Alps.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The Eiger and Munch Mountains are looming large as you climb higher.
Those names sound familiar.
They actually flank Jungfrau, the mountain we're talking about today. And the views. It's not just a train ride. It's a journey through time. And some seriously heavy.
You gotta hand it to the engineers who designed this railway. That's incredible. Speaking of which, how long has this Jungfraubahn been operational?
Get this, it's been around since 1912.
Wow, over a century old.
Talk about a testament to innovative engineering. I mean, you're talking about tunnels carved right through those massive mountains.
That's mind-blowing. And this train delivers you right to the heart of Jungfraujoch.
Right to the station. Which, by the way, is so much more than just a place to get off the train. It's a hub of activity.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We're talking restaurants. Because, trust me, that alpine air will work up an appetite.
I can imagine.
And, of course, there are observation decks to soak in the views.
I bet those are incredible.
They are something else. And get this, they even have facilities designed to keep you comfortable at that altitude.
That makes sense. I imagine it's pretty intense in there. You know, you mentioned observation decks, and I have to ask, are we going to talk about the Sphinx observation deck?
We can't leave that out. We'll dive into that a bit later, but let's just say it takes those incredible views to a whole new level. Literally. But first, let's talk about what you actually do once you're up there. Because you've arrived, you're acclimated to the air, ready to explore. The good news is, Jungfraujoch has something for everyone.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Like what?
Well, if you're feeling adventurous, there's the Snow Fun Park.
Okay, what's that all about?
We're talking skiing, snowboarding, sledding.
Sounds like fun.
Right. And if you're a beginner, don't worry. They've got you covered with rentals and lessons, so you can jump right in.
That's great. But what if you prefer adventures that are a bit more, shall we say, chilled?
I've got you covered. For that, you absolutely have to check out the ice tunnels.
Ice tunnels, tell me more.
Imagine this. You're walking through tunnels carved from centuries-old glacial ice.
Wow.
The way the light filters through the ice creates this incredible blue glow. It's really mesmerizing.
That's some other world.
And speaking of otherworldly, there's also the Ice Palace.
Okay, you have to tell me more about this.
Get ready to be wowed by intricate ice sculptures. I'm not just talking about a couple of swans here.
So we're talking serious ice sculptures here.
Oh yeah, think mythical creatures, famous landmarks, all meticulously carved from, you guessed it, glacial ice. It's like stepping into a frozen fairy tale.
I love it. You know, it just occurred to me, where did you get the ice from all these sculptures?
That's the key part. The ice used in those sculptures is ancient, like really old. It originates from the Aletsch Glacier itself. So you're not just admiring art, you're witnessing history frozen in time.
Okay, that officially wins the coolest fact award. Speaking of the Aletsch Glacier, you can't gloss over that.
Oh, absolutely not.
This is the part I'm
buzulun altından tepedeki tesisler
You better believe it. But here's the thing, the Aletsch Glacier is more than just a pretty face.
There's more.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason. This glacier is a living, well, maybe not breathing,
Right, of course.
but it's a testament to our planet's history.
Yeah.
And, sadly, it's shrinking due to climate change.
Oh.
Seeing it firsthand really makes you realize the impact we're having on our environment,
Absolutely.
It's a powerful reminder of why we need to protect these incredible natural wonders.
It really puts things into perspective. Okay, so we've talked about the journey, the attractions.
Yeah.
What about the practical stuff? Like, what's the best time to plan a trip to this icy wonderland?
Great question. Well, the good news is Jungfraujoch is open year-round.
No kidding.
Yeah, each season has its own unique charm. Summers, from June to September, are milder.
Makes sense.
But if you're dreaming of a winter wonderland, those colder months are pure magic. Snow-covered peaks, that crisp mountain air, it's truly breathtaking.
I can only imagine. But no matter when you decide to visit, there's one thing you definitely can't forget. That altitude is no joke. We're talking serious layering here.
Okay, the Sphinx observation deck, you have my attention. I mean, we were just talking about the highest railway station in the world, but this takes things up a notch.
Oh, you better believe it. And literally, imagine stepping off that train. You're already feeling like you're on top of the world.
Yeah.
And then you hop onto an elevator.
Okay.
And it whisks you up another 108 meters.
Hold on. We're going even higher.
You bet. And suddenly you're at the Sphinx observation deck. You're completely surrounded by this incredible panorama of the Alps. And it just seems to stretch on forever.
You had me at panorama. But, okay, let's be real for a sec. At that altitude, am I picturing hurricane-force winds, or is it just me?
That is the beauty of the Sphinx observation deck. It's enclosed, so no matter what the weather's doing outside, you can enjoy those views in total comfort.
Okay, that's a relief because, wow, I can only imagine.
And it gets better, they even have telescopes up there, so you can get up close and personal with the mountain peaks, glaciers, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, now that's something I can get behind. Telescopes.
Aye.
But for those of us who prefer to keep our feet, firmly planted on solid ground, let's circle back to the Ice Palace for a bit. We talked about those ice sculptures before, but what kind of artistry are we talking about here? Give me the details.
It's really incredible, the level of detail in these sculptures. I mean, remember, they're carved entirely from glacial ice.
Right.
So the skill involved is next level. You'll see everything from those mythical creatures we talked about to famous landmarks all glistening under the artificial light. It's really quite magical.
Magical frozen fairy tale. I'm sensing a theme here.
It's true. And here's another one of those fun facts for you. The ice used in these sculptures is centuries old.
Get out.
It's true. It comes from the Aletsch Glacier itself.
No way. So it's like you said, you're not just admiring art, you're witnessing history frozen in time.
Exactly.
That's incredible. I love it. Okay, speaking of incredible, you briefly mentioned something earlier about a post office. And not just any post office, but one with some serious bragging rights.
Right. So Jungfraujoch is home to the highest post office in all of Europe.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm serious. So forget your typical souvenir shops. You can send a postcard from the top of Europe.
Now that's what I call a story. Move over fridge magnets. We're doing postcards from now on.
Yeah.
And, since we're on the topic of bragging rights, I know our listeners are going to want to capture all those Instagram-worthy moments.
Of course.
We talked about those extra batteries earlier.
Right.
But do you have any other photography tips for capturing the magic of Jungfraujoch?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that lighting can be tricky at high altitudes. So you might want to experiment with different times of day to get some really cool shots. And don't just focus on those epic panoramic views.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the details, too. So maybe focus on how the light plays on the ice crystals, capture the texture of the snow, things like that. Those little things can make your photos really special.
Those details are everything. It's so easy to get caught up in, the big picture, you know?
Right.
Okay, before we move on to the nitty-gritty of planning a trip to Jungfraujoch,
Okay.
you mentioned something earlier about a new cable car descent.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So if you're looking for a different perspective on your descent, you can take this new cable car line. It connects Jungfraujoch directly to Grindelwald.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a state-of-the-art system, and it gives you these amazing aerial views as you're gliding down the mountainside.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
So you can choose your own adventure, a historic train journey, or this modern cable car ride. Decisions. What would you choose?
Ah, that's a tough one.
Right.
They both offer incredible experiences.
I know.
I think it comes down to personal preference.
I think you're right, but it's hard to go wrong either way. Okay, so you sold us on the destination, we're mentally prepared for the altitude, and I'm already brainstorming postcard messages. Let's hit our listener with some practical planning tips. What do they absolutely need to know before embarking on their very own Jungfraujoch adventure?
All right, so to get to Jungfraujoch, we know we can take the historic train journey or the new cable car line.
And we know that it's open year-round, but summer offers a gentler weather experience than the colder months.
Exactly.
But we can't forget about those layers.
Definitely not. Even if you think you don't get cold, trust me, the weather up there has a mind of its own.
So layers are key.
Definitely.
Okay, what about tickets? We know we need to book in advance, but anything else our listeners should know?
Yeah, booking those tickets in advance, especially if you're going during peak season because you don't want to miss out on the train or any of those amazing attractions.
That'd be so disappointing after coming all this way.
Exactly.
And speaking of all this way, Switzerland can be a bit pricey, right?
Yeah, it can be, but there are always ways to make it more budget-friendly.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yep.
Any tips for us?
Well, have you considered a Swiss travel pass?
I've heard of them.
A lot of them actually include the Jungfraubahn in the price, so you can save a good chunk of change that way.
Well, that's pretty good. And what about food? I've heard that tourist areas are a little on the expensive side.
It's true, but a little tip, pack some snacks and drinks.
Ah, good idea.
Yeah, it'll definitely help keep those costs down, especially if you're with the whole family.
So true. It all adds up. Okay, so we've covered layers, tickets, food. What about safety? Any advice there, especially with the altitude?
Right, altitude sickness is real, so it's important to listen to your body.
Good point.
Stay hydrated, take it easy on your first day up there to acclimatize, and maybe go easy on the alcohol.
Or save it for a celebratory toast once you're back down the mountain.
Exactly. And of course, if you have any pre-existing health conditions, it's always a good idea to check in with your doctor before heading up that high.
Better safe than sorry. Well, I feel like we've covered pretty much everything Jungfraujoch has to offer, from the historic train journey to the breathtaking views, the ice sculptures, that glacier.
It's truly an incredible destination.
It really is. Before we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are probably already dreaming of those mountain peaks?
You know, Jungfraujoch is more than just a place to check off your bucket list. It's a chance to connect with nature, to witness the beauty of our planet, and experience that Swiss charm.
Beautifully said. Take your time. Savor those moments. Let yourself be awestruck by it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said. Listener, if you could experience one thing at Jungfraujoch, what would it be? The train journey, those ice sculptures, the panoramic views? Let us know. We love hearing about your travel dreams. Until next time, safe travels and happy exploring.